Yeah, I have it tattooed on my
You know what I
hand
mean?
there.
So you have it
It's,
tattooed.
the paintbrush there. Painting's kind of always been a big part of my life. It was a way for me to express my creativity when I was younger. I started out just doodling, drawing, things like that. As I got older, we used to go visit family members in LA, San Bernardino, different parts of the city. And I remember like driving by like, the trains and the bridges and things like that and seeing some of the street art and wondering like, man, how did they do that? How did they make that? How did they get it there? Like, is it a copy and paste type of thing? Then I started seeing some videos, sure enough, of graffiti and how active it was and people drawing and creativity. So I kind of started to get an eye for art and how I could use it to express, in any way I was feeling, good, bad, by drawing trees, drawing the sun, school and, everything that would make you do color kind of gave me an interest too. Once I kind of got older and reflected back to it, I was kind of like, this is something I like to do, So I started to just draw things that I would see in my head, visions, whether it was, a character or a symbol, anything that I would see. And painting for me kind of just became a way that I could, provide myself some type of therapy for how I was feeling at the time. And, it kind of became a stream for me to express myself. However, expressing yourself won't help you make a living in some circumstances. You kind of have to have a cash flow. My father, started seeing I was getting into painting and things like that and tagging. Sure enough, he started finding spray cans and I was getting into trouble. And he started telling me like, oh, you're wasting your time, man, like spraying chicken scratch on these walls. You got to find a job that's going to pay you, da 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 da. You're never going to make any money fucking painting walls. And, I kind of felt that as like my dreams being shattered. I didn't say I had big hopes to be an artist or a muralist or anything in that sense there. I just wanted to see where it would take me. And so he kind of slowly started to kill my vision, but then I kind of thought, what, I can make something out of this if I keep pushing. After some years went by, I kind of started to believe him. I started seeing cars and nice things that I wanted, and like drawing on this notebook wasn't making me no money. Tagging in the streets wasn't making me money. If anything, it was taking money. I was, spending money on spray cans, going down the street, ruining clothes, etc. So as I got older, I started getting into trades, following what my dad said. Became a plumber for a bit, became, construction worker, general labor, concrete, things like that. And then in the general labor world, painting fell in my lap. I went through a few other things, that kind of led me to it previous, but I got with the painting company, long story short. And, having a spray can to a paintbrush is a completely different transition when you're applying it to something. So I found the same therapeutic, what could I say, that
like that feel.
That feel, yeah. I found that feel when I was doing it, and I was like, wow, this feels like I'm young and I'm climbing these buildings and I'm tagging and I'm painting again, let alone it being a commercial company. So I'm going up 70 feet on high rises, painting, rooftops, ceramic coating things, or like, painting Stater Brothers, Starbucks, things like that, markets of those such. And it kind of gave me that same feel, the heights, the adrenaline, the painting, the transition of what it was before and after. So I spent some time painting, and I got into the union, spent probably about 2.5 years there, journeyed out, really learned everything about the trade that I could, from waterproofing, fireproofing, because painting is a protective coating. People don't realize everything that it goes on, it protects for a certain amount of time. Definitely needs to be retouched, repainted, resurfaced. So got into painting in the union, spent some time there. I was making a good living. I was kind of transitioning from being a young teenager to becoming a young, father at the time. So prioritizing my life and what my finances were going to be was like, if this is going to feed me, this is going to be my cash flow, I have to make this work for me. I have to make it the best. So I started painting in the union. Life was going good. Everything was going great. But I slowly felt that like I wasn't fulfilling my dreams, and what I really wanted to do. I was kind of just doing it for a paycheck. So I started hearing like other guys talking about how they would paint a room for $400 or $500. Some of the older cats in the union, oh, I just painted this garage door, da 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 da. So it kind of started giving me ideas to brainstorm out of what I was doing, working for someone and painting all these buildings, Disneyland, for somebody else. And why not transition the time and my experience and my creativity into myself? So I saved some money. I purchased a truck, equipment, sprayers, pressure washers, things like that, since I knew the ins and outs of the trade. And I kind of just went door knocking, man. COVID made it very easy for me. people were at their house. So during the time I was starting my business, I was door knocking, and people were at home, sure enough, painting themselves. You know, like I'd walk in and they open the door, and this lady's like, "Oh wow, like a painter's knocking. My husband's painting the living room right now. Like, take a look." So I'd be like, "Oh wow, like yeah, he is." Like, "Oh okay, well, here's my card," so on and so forth. Go to the neighbors, do the same thing. Leave a card with a piece of tape in hopes they'd call back. And sure enough, man, after about a week or so, I think I dropped about 500 cards, and I was real discouraged. I was like, man, I dropped all these cards, and not one person called me back. Not one person wants to paint. Not one person wants to, you know, improve their house, whatever it be. Sure enough, a client called me back. "Hey, I want to paint my house. Da 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 da. I spoke with you. My husband never completed the living room." I was like, "Oh wow, it's this same client." Returned to her house, gave her an estimate, completed the job there. It was like a living room and an additional like kitchen section, and painted that. She's, "You know what? I think my neighbor wants to paint too." Easily influenced.
That's the nice thing about it, bro.
Honestly, that's it. When you kind of get those referrals, you know, and people kind of just start handing you the work, kind of just starts to flow on its own. And did the neighbor's house, and the rest would honestly be history, man. Like I did the neighbor's house, and I did the neighbor's house, and before I knew it, I painted 3 houses in a row in one corner section. So, you know, when you drive to that street and you see those houses there, it's like, wow, it's very aesthetically pleasing. So obviously it makes the neighbor's house look a little less. So in the neighbor's house, hey, I need to paint my house too. After realizing my time and effort, my experience, and what I can do, I kind of slowed down and was like, wow, man, I kind of just made $2,000 in 2 days, in like, you know, 20 hours, 2 10-hour shifts. I do 40 in the union, and I barely see this.
Yeah.
I think I need to evaluate my time a little better and what I'm doing. Mind you, I never had any, like, say, role model or design to entrepreneurship, because my family doesn't come from that. You know, my mother, my father, you know, they've always worked in corporate America. You know, typical, you know, Mexican American household. So I didn't have any idea on how to run my own business, how to charge, how to make, you know, taxes, how to make profits, how to, you know, manage expenses. So it was all really a learning game for me, trying to take that dive and say, you know what, I'm going to leave my position here in the union and try to start something for myself. You know, I'd say the self-taught and, you know, the self-made, what's it called? Entrepreneurs like really gave me an insight to that, like being self-made, being about it for yourself. It really influenced me to like, you know what, I gotta learn this. I gotta figure it out.